I'm a teacher in Minnesota. I'm doing this very low tech. I'm just wanting to point out a few things that I see, consequently do something like an apologia for Christianity.
What I don't think is the case, I don't think that humans are ever free of myth-making. I think that we always make myths. There is no point where we say, I no longer believe in anything. But then that begs the question, what do we mean by belief? What is belief? It doesn't seem to me that it is adequately defined as yet. Most people seem to assume that belief means knowledge, or that belief means an unswerving assurance that whatever is. That there's an assurance that there's a God, or that there's an assurance that there was a Jesus who died for my sins, or that there's an assurance that there was a Buddha, or there was an assurance that there's a logos, an order. But that's not belief. Belief is different. I mean, if that's what belief were, we would call belief knowledge. But if for instance, if what we meant was an assurity without any doubt at all, then we would call it that thing. We wouldn't call it belief. Belief is something different. Belief, seems to me, is best defined as faith in the existence of things unseen based upon the authority of someone else. If I leave the room, I say I'll be back in 5 minutes. People in the room believe that I'll be back because I've said so. They don't have any assurance that I will be. I could be hit by a truck. I could have cardiac arrest. I could just ditch them all and go down to the bar for a drink. Their belief is based on the fact that I have said that I will return. Consequently, when we say belief and belief system, what are we talking about? We're talking about a system of ideas or thoughts or ways of seeing the world based upon the authority of somebody else. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an assurance that the belief is connected to something real. Which of course begs the term, what do we mean by real? What is the really real? The West, of course, is affected greatly by that Platonic vision that the really real is not in this world, that the really real is beyond this world. But of course, that's not really Plato, that's Neoplatonism. It's the Neoplatonics who took Plato's metaphor, which is really what all his dialogues are. They're huge metaphor. They themselves are a myth. They take this huge myth, and they I got to invest in a tripod. They take his myth for fact, and thus the Neoplatonists suggest that this world is the lie or the illusion, and the next world is the reality. I don't think that's what Plato's suggesting at all. I think that his myth, his metaphor, is suggesting, first off, that this world is very real, but that it itself is based upon a much greater, glorious reality, which we only dimly glimpse. Moreover, I think that Plato was suggesting this not in order that we pursue that reality beyond this world as sort of some unattainable goal, but rather I think he was suggesting it in order to change the way that we saw this world right here, this reality right here. If, for instance, like I said, if we believe that this system of images, forms, logos, comprehensible world, is a reality, is really real, we're going to act in a certain way. Plato, it seems, would suggest that we will act as free men, that we will judge things freely and unbiased if we believe that there is an order, if we see the world as ordered and beautiful and good and noble. And he wasn't suggesting that we simply inundate ourselves with a series of lies. What he seems to be suggesting is rather a myth contrary to the popular zeitgeist at his time. The popular zeitgeist being that when you die, there's nothing else. Or the popular zeitgeist that if you simply are obedient to this or that bloody god, you will have some sort of pleasurable eternity. What one of the characters in the Republic refers to as an eternal drunk. If those are all we have to look forward to, either a black nothingness as reward for all of our virtue, or an eternal drunkenness with a Google virgins, it's not much of an incentive. It doesn't seem to me that it inspires anybody to do good in this world at all. And so if we were to read Plato, he's attempting to change the minds of his audience so that they begin to conceive of the world as ordered, beautiful, structured. I would propose that Nietzsche's claim of Christianity being Plato for the masses is spot on, that it's not to be read as some sort of pejorative or put down of Christianity, or even though Nietzsche probably did mean it as a put down to Christianity. But I would suggest it not be read that way. I would suggest that Christianity is Plato for the masses. The cults there in Greece, the various mystery cults, claimed that certain things were not revealed to everybody, not because they had a hoard upon knowledge or that they wanted to lord it over people, although there probably were those who did that, but because they were aware that certain ideas, realities, understandings might be detrimental to some people. For instance, whether there is a God or there isn't a God, whether man is a creature of a divine, benevolent deity, whether man is created in God's image or not, that is, whether man is simply an evolved ape, there is no God, we're simply a very rational creature. It may be that the former is not true, and that the latter is true. But what does it help a person to think I am a hairless ape? What benefit does a person have from that? Most people thinking that, the hoi polloi, so to speak, most people thinking that think, well, why follow any kind of rules, restrictions at all? Why honor my neighbor? Why not beat his brain in? Why not steal his wife? Rape his cattle, whatever. Most people thinking that we're nothing more than hairless apes would resort to that. Moreover, I would suggest that the ancient world law is the law of the rule of the strong. If we don't believe that we are made in God's image, if we don't believe that there is a God, what remains? What myth takes over? I would propose that is the myth of a rule of the strong. If I don't believe in God, I don't come to believe in something more beautiful and more holy and more noble. I come to believe in something much darker and bloodier and violent. Something that serves my needs. My needs are great. And if you get in the way, if my neighbor gets in my way, or my wife or my children, if all I believe is that the rule of the strong is dominant, I am more strong. Therefore, what stops me from harming my neighbor, asserting myself? The triumph of the will. So consequently, whether there's a God or not, our lack of belief that there's a God leaves us really only one option.